Okay, guys, today we're going to take apart the crankshaft, three-piece crankshaft for a G-Force T42 bike. Around the same thing as the electric bikes, but this one's actually better in a lot of ways. I'm doing a review on that coming up. I keep saying that, but I will. And my accessories and locks and all that stuff. On all these e-bikes, it's pretty much everything's the same in terms of how things go together, come apart. So, say if you need to replace the sensor, this is the PAS level sensor. If you're having a problem, if it doesn't work, you might have to replace this. It's really simple. And what you need for tools is one of those, those little tire things that you use for taking apart, tires. Get a flat tire. I also have a good video coming up about how to take apart the flat tire on this bike, what to bring on the road when it's like dark out, you're 10 miles from your house, and how to do that. That's coming up if I don't have it up already. And then you're also going to need a puller tool, a crank puller tool. And I bought the kit from Amazon. I'll put a link in the description. This piece is to pull out the hub inside here. This piece is to pull the crank off, along with this piece. They all go together. I'll show you how to use it. Because when you take this off, in order to get the sensor off, you have to unplug it from right here. I don't know if you can see that. There's like a little plug right here. It just pops off. And then this just comes off, and you can replace the sensor very easily. But to get this crank, you're going to get this crank off to get the sensor off. And it's on really tight, and it's supposed to be that way for safety reasons. So if you try to bang it off with a hammer, you could do damage. If you try to put a crescent wrench around it and bang it with a hammer, you could do damage. There's a video out there about telling you what not to do for these crank pullers. Just buy the crank puller. This is the complete kit to take off the crank and the inside. Only $19, $20. 2-day shipping, Amazon Prime, whatever. But they also sell just this part for like $12 if you just want to take the crank off. You don't care about taking the insides out. But to me, for another $10, you get the rest. Why wouldn't you get all of it? Just in case. You might have to re-grease something, change the bearings, depending how long you have the bike for. People usually keep bikes for a long time. Even if the motor goes in this, you can't get motors for it anymore, which you probably will because these things sell like hotcakes and they're all the same. You get a new motor from F-Bang or whatever, and controllers and all that crap. But say if you just don't want to fix it, you can use it as a regular bike, and you might have to, re-grease things and whatever. So what I learned is you can actually pull this off with your hands, your fingernails. You don't even need this if you've got strong hands, but I'm going to do it because it's easier. You don't want to mar up. Don't use a screwdriver because you'll mar it up. You just kind of go around it with this plastic Park Tool piece. It's like, I only have a couple things from Park Tool because I think they're over expensive. And Bike Hand is just as good for half the price. But these were pretty cheap and they're good quality, so I got them for the tire, changing a tire. They come in useful for this. And just kind of pry it open like so. And then underneath here, if you can see this, you want to unplug this And it only goes one way. There's arrows on this. You just unplug it, and you take this little tie off, the zip tie. I'm not going to do that because I don't have to replace this sensor. I'm just showing you how to do it. So you just unplug this. I could show you how to do that. Just kind of pull it out like this. And you just pull hard. You see where the arrow, see the arrows right there? You can see them. You just pull. That easy. You take the zip tie off, you take this crank off, and this just pulls right off. So I'm going to do that. So the first step is to get yourself a 9mm wrench. No, I think is it 9 or 6? I don't know. And fortunately for the G-Force bikes, the G-Force T42, they give you a whole bunch of Allen wrenches that I think you might even have the Allen wrench that already comes with it. That also does the gooseneck up here, does the gooseneck, does under the seat, does the handlebars, just about everything on the bike. Even to take the tires off, to give you a wrench. So I'm using my Crank Brothers. Probably better off using one of those long Allen wrench head screws. I think it's a 6mm. Nope, it's not. It's an 8mm with this Crank Brothers tool. See it? 8mm. And these things are really tight. So I think it's lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, so I'm loosening it right now. Lefty-loosey. And you just take this out. And by the way, guys, I have a bike stand. Bikehead bike stand. Which is even better than the Park Tool stand for $200. Versus the Park Tool one that costs $300. And it's actually got aluminum teeth. It's more robust. It can hold 110 pounds versus the Park Tool 85 pounds or 80 pounds. And it works better in my opinion. And this is like a special plastic, carbon, whatever, I don't know. It's just really awesome. Got a quick release. I'm going to do a review on this too. Better than the Park Tool. And I know you're going to say Park Tools are made in America, blah, 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 blah. I know. But they're not completely made in America. There are some things that are not made in America from Park Tools. And don't get mad at the Asian people for doing a good job and working for cheaper money and working their butts off and all that stuff. And being ahead of us in technology, because that's what's happening. And buying stuff for a lot cheaper through them. Then American companies need to lower their prices because Park Tools are grossly overpriced and there's no reason for it. Yeah, I understand. I'll pay a few more bucks for American-made tools, but a few. Like if it was like a $25 difference between the Park Tool stand and the bike handstand, I'd probably buy the Park Tool just to support the American. But if it's $100 more and $100 here and $30 here and $20 there, even their freaking, like a regular Allen wrench head tool is like over 300% more than a Chinese tool. And it's really not that much better. Certain things are, but a lot of it's not, especially if you're using bike hand. All right, guys. So here's how you do the crank puller. It's the first time I ever did this. So get the pedal out of the way. So this is going to go on here like this. And then you had to unscrew this first, put this on. And I think you want this to be flush. to start, right? Then you twist this on. Very easy, like that. And then you have to turn this in, with finger tighten it. Can't screw this up because it only goes one way. So make sure that's tight. Then make sure this is tight. And I think that this, I think. I gotta look it up. I had it right just to make sure. You see this piece right here? If you have the 8mm type, you have a small screw. In other words, if your screw looks like this, then you need this type. A little small metal piece that presses on the inside right there. See how it presses on the inside? Right in front of those threads, the small threads inside. That's what this piece on the inside pushes against to pull the crank off. They have ones that are bigger. That piece is bigger. It's a different type, but this is for this type. The 8mm wrench type. So let me put it back. I didn't think I had it right because I was really trying and it wasn't turning very well. But I had it right. So you just turn this again. It's hand tight. Then you turn this. You can tighten this a little bit, I guess. Then, to get the crank off, you gotta turn this, because that hurts my hand. I'm glad I have my big crescent wrench. Like this. This sucker is hard to turn. Oh, it's coming off now. There we go. It is working. Yeah. Oh my God, guys, that was tough, honestly. It actually felt like you were breaking something. Look at this. So you need a big crescent wrench like this, with the nice handle. Maybe you have to use like a glove or something. And it's almost off. Wow, that was tight. Holy shit. You can see it coming off now. See it? Yay. So this wrench is useful, but it's definitely weak. You're going to need one of these suckers. So that did come off. That did work. So now the next step, at least I know how to take it off now, is you just pull the sensor off, right? See that, guys? Be very gentle. You want to break it. And that's it. You unclip the zip tie and you replug it in, put the new zip tie in, blah, 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 and you put it back on. But for now, since we got this off, we're going to try, I'm only going to do one side, guys. I'm not going to do both sides. It's the same process for both sides. You're going to find out the right one that you have. But now we're going to take this off. I don't know why I'm doing this, because I got it off anyways, because this is actually for a friend who has a sensor that needs to be replaced on his G-Force bike, and I like to help people. So I bought this kit to show him. So now that you take that off, this goes in here. No, it's the right one. So you put this in here like this. This does fit. Ha! I didn't think it did. I'm a dummy. It's like Sanford Son. What are you doing, dummy? So you could use the one that came with it, and that's what I'm going to do. But just in case, crack as usual. Wasting time. So you can use this, which looks like it'll work just fine. Okay, what I learned with this is that you're going to line this up, this with this. So you keep turning it until it goes in, so it lines up. So it doesn't fit. There we go. You should keep turning it and it will get in there. I think it's lefty loosey, righty tighty. So again, I'm going to have to look this up. Alright guys, so it worked finally, but you had to use a breaker bar like this, and you go down towards the front tire. It was really hard. These two tools for a newly installed crank, this to get the puller, this is not strong enough. Maybe on some bikes it'll work, but this one it didn't. You needed to use a big strong crescent wrench like that, and you have to use a crescent wrench, unfortunately. Or you can use a medium ratchet. Or you can use a medium ratchet. And then this with this, putting this in here and using this, there's no way I was getting that off. There's no way I was getting this off with this. It was even hard using this Craftsman big ass tool, but it worked. You felt like I was going to break it because I was pressing so hard. And I have it on my bike stand to keep it upright, and I had to put the bike stand all the way on the ground because I had to really push. I just used the bike stand to keep it up straight because the kickstand on this bike is kind of leans too much because they have the big fat tires. So if you're using a stand, make sure you put it all the way on the ground. You'll probably break your stand with all the pressure you have to put. Good to use the pressure from the tire on the ground. But it worked. And now that I loosened it, I could take this off by hand. As you can see, I'll just take it off to show you what it looks like. Just for shits and giggles. But holy crap, that was tight. And to take the other side off, you do the same thing. For this type of a crank, whatever. Let's take a look in there. Put this here. This crap out of the way. And there's the bearing inside. So to get the bearing out, you probably have to take out the other side and then pull this through, and then you can get the bearings out. do the same identical thing to the other side, and you can take the bearings out. Or maybe you don't even have to do that. I think you don't have to take this crank off. I think all you gotta do is just take the chain off. I don't know. I never did it before. I'm assuming you have to take this off both sides, the left and right side. Let's see, push this crank off because it's not moving, I noticed. You give it a little smack, see if it moves at all. Yeah, it's not moving. I thought maybe you could just pull this off, leave it like the old school cranks. But it looks like you probably have to take off the other piece too. The other side like this. If you had to replace the bearings or something. And what's cool about it is it's not like the old school BMX bikes where you take, it's all one piece. And there's like all this bearings and grease everywhere and you have to re-grease the bearings like the old school type of bearings. It looks like it's a sealed bearing type thing in there. You must know what I'm talking about. So if these cranks ever get loose, that's how you replace those bearings. Pretty simple. I'll make a video on that if that ever happens, but it might not for a long time. But at least you get the gist of how to do it and how to replace this sensor. It just goes on here. Okay, I'm going to put it back together. Okay, so to put it back on, after you put this on, I screwed up and I put the crank on before I put the sensor on. You put your new sensor, you get your new sensor, you put that back on, be very careful. Try to copy the orientation it was in the first place. And push this in nice and gently. I think it was just like that. Like that. That's it. Make sure it's nice and tight. I'd probably use this to push it a little bit. I'll make sure it's all the way on. It just presses on, which is bizarre. And that's the way the orientation was. It's pointing at, I think it was 5 o'clock. Is that 5 o'clock? Alright, now we put the crank back on. Okay, now you put the screw in to crank it back on. Make sure, again, the orientation of the crank, they're like this, because you could put it on a different way. Make sure they're obviously common sense. One's facing this way, one's facing that way on the other side. You don't want to screw that one up. And conveniently, like I said, shockingly, I could have used this to take it off. It's an 8mm. Fits perfectly. I don't need my crank brothers. I could have just used this. So that set for $20, I'll put a link in the description, is really cool. Comes with everything you need. Gotta love it. And then you want to keep cranking this down. And remember that sensor is on now. And you can see the progress you make. It'll get tighter and tighter, and I don't really know or understand when to stop. I guess until I can't push it anymore. I'm going to keep going. But yeah, there's no way I was getting this crank off with any other method than the crank puller. No way. Not if I smacked it. I would have had to beat the shit out of the crank. Alright. That feels good, like it's really not budging. I'm going to stop. And there you have it. It's on. Now you want to connect your wire for your sensor, your PAS sensor. And this one looks like, check the arrows out here. You can see the arrow. I don't know if you can see that. There's 2 arrows that line up. You can't mess it up. If you mess those pins up, you're in trouble. So there you go. That's done. You want to tuck that back up into the controller thing if you can. That's where it was. It was up there like that. You could see that it was like kind of just up in the little frame. See it? Just up there. Make sure this is nice and loose. You don't want it to be too tight. And that's how you take the cranks off of a 3-piece crank set, or 4-piece, I don't know what you're going to call it, 3-piece. 1, 2 on the other side, and the middle is 3, I guess. And replace the sensor and using a crank puller. I hope you like this video. If you do, please subscribe. If you don't like the video, then that will suck, and you can give me a dislike. But if it helped you in any way, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and God bless.